The Facebook notification chimed at 2:47 a.m., but I was already lying there awake, staring at the ceiling and wondering why my fiancée Lydia still wasn't home. Her bachelorette party was supposed to have wrapped up hours ago. I grabbed my phone, expecting maybe a slurred voice message, a drunk I love you text, or a blurry selfie of her and her friends at some crowded bar. Instead, what I saw froze me. On my screen was a photo of Lydia, the woman I'd planned to marry after 8 long years together, sitting on a man's lap at Murphy's bar downtown. Her arms were wrapped around his neck like he was the love of her life. Her face was flushed red from alcohol, and maybe from something else I didn't want to admit. The guy's face wasn't fully visible. He'd turned slightly away from the camera. But I could still see enough. A sharp, expensive-looking shirt. A smug little grin. The kind of man who acts like every room belongs to him the moment he walks in. Under the picture, the caption read, "Last night of freedom. Thanks girls for the wildest bachelorette ever. Hashtag no regrets, hashtag last night single." My hands started to shake as I scrolled through the comments. Her friends were going wild. Fire emojis. Yas girl. Get it babe. This is legendary. Sienna, her maid of honor, had commented. What happens at bachelorette stays at bachelorette. Oops. I stared at that photo for a solid 10 minutes, my stomach twisting. 8 years together. 8 years of building a life. 8 years of planning a future, talking about kids we might have one day, arguing over what kind of house to buy, talking about retirement and growing old together. And this was how she celebrated our upcoming wedding. Before I even realized what I was doing, I took a screenshot. My thumb hovered only a second before I opened my own Facebook and uploaded the picture. My caption was short. First night of freedom. Then I went one step further. I changed my relationship status to single and tagged everyone who mattered. Close friends, family, coworkers, and her father, Richard Hartwell, one of the stiffest, most serious insurance executives in all of Portland, Maine. Then I waited. The reaction was instant and loud. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Notifications, messages, comments. People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly very, very interested in my life. Some were furious on my behalf. Some were confused. Others were clearly just there for the drama, settling in like they just bought front row seats to a show. At 3:15 a.m., I heard Lydia's car pulling into the driveway. Seconds later, the front door flew open so hard it hit the wall. Lydia stormed into the house like a hurricane, still in her little black party dress. Her makeup was smudged, her hair messy, her eyes wild with anger. She looked nothing like the calm, polished insurance executive I had fallen in love with. "What the hell is wrong with you, Eli?" she screamed, waving her phone at me. "Are you completely insane?" I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, watching the fire I had lit spread across social media. Our small town of Millbrook loved gossip, and I just handed them the story of the year. Wrong with me. I stood up slowly. I'm 38 years old. I'd spent years in the military and then more years running my own handyman business. I learned to keep my temper locked down. But tonight, that control was barely holding. "I'm not the one grinding on a stranger at my bachelorette party," I said. "It was just a joke," she snapped, throwing her purse on the counter. "God, you're so insecure. It was harmless fun." Harmless. I turned my laptop toward her and pulled the photo up on the screen. "This looks harmless to you?" Lydia glanced at it. For a moment, just one small moment, her face went pale. Then her chin lifted, and the defiant expression I knew so well came roaring back. "You don't trust me after 8 years, she said. "That says a lot about you, not me." "Who is he?" I asked. "Nobody," she said too quickly. "Just some random guy at the bar." Sienna dared me to take a photo. It meant nothing, but her voice told a different story. Her eyes kept darting away. Her fingers wouldn't stay still. I'd been around enough liars, both in the army and in civilian life, to recognize the signs. My phone started to ring on the table. I looked down and saw the caller ID. Richard Hartwell. "Answer it," Lydia hissed. I put the call on speaker. "Hello, Richard. It's Eli. What in God's name is going on?" His voice was cold and sharp. "I'm getting calls from half the town about some social media nonsense." "Ask your daughter," I said. "Lydia, explain yourself." She snatched the phone from me. "Daddy, it's nothing," she said in a fake calm voice. "Eli's just having some kind of breakdown." The photo was just a silly joke. A joke that's now been shared 300 times, I cut in. The local news Facebook page just picked it up. Lydia's face drained of color. "What?" I refreshed my browser and read the headline out loud. Channel 8 News. Local groom calls off wedding after viral bachelorette party photo. "Congratulations, honey," I said. "You're famous." "This is insane." Lydia shouted at me. "You're ruining everything over nothing." "I'm ruining everything?" I let out a short, humorless laugh. "I'm not the one dry humping a stranger 3 days before our wedding." Richard's voice crackled out of the speaker. "That's enough, both of you," he snapped. "Lydia, come home. We'll discuss this like adults." She grabbed her keys again without another word to me and stormed out. After she left, I sat in the quiet kitchen and watched the story explode all over the internet. People from high school started commenting. Old army buddies weighed in. Even my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Carlin, somehow found the post and left a row of shocked face emojis. As the adrenaline started to wear off, something else started to grow in my gut. Something wasn't right. Lydia's anger had been too over the top, too panicked. And that man in the photo, there was something familiar about him, even with half his face turned away. I didn't know who he was yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I was going to find out. Chapter 2. The next morning brought a parade of buzzing phones, text messages, and people knocking on my door. At 7 a.m., there was a firm knock. When I opened it, I found Mrs. Carlin standing there, holding a casserole dish like she always did whenever there was trouble in the neighborhood. Her eyes were bright with curiosity. "Such a shame, dear," she said as she swept past me into the kitchen without waiting to be invited. "Truly a shame. Though I have to say, I always wondered about that girl." I raised an eyebrow. Wondered what? "She was always too ambitious, if you ask me," she said, setting the casserole on my counter and lifting the foil. "All those late nights at the office." "Late nights?" I asked. "Oh yes," she said, nodding. "Working until all hours, apparently. But between you and me, I saw her car leave at 5:30 most days, then come back around 9 or 10. Strange way to work late, don't you think?" I filed that away in my mind like a piece of evidence. After she left, I called my best friend, Mike. He managed Ollie's bar downtown and knew every bit of gossip this town produced. "Dude, you broke the internet," he said as soon as he picked up. "Half the town is talking about you. The other half is making memes." "I need a favor," I said. "Can you meet me for lunch?" "Already clearing my schedule," he replied. We met later at O'Malley's during the quiet afternoon hours. Mike poured me a beer, slid a basket of hot wings across the bar, and leaned on his elbows. "So," he said, "what's the real story?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo. "Look at the guy," I said. "Really look at him." Mike squinted at the screen for a moment. Then his eyes widened. "Holy crap," he said. Is that Troy Barron?" "Who's Troy Barron?" I asked. "Regional manager at Hartwell Insurance," Mike said. "Richard's golden boy. Drives a BMW, wears suits like he's going to a fashion show, acts like God's gift to women. He comes in here sometimes with clients." He paused. "Eli," he said slowly, "if Lydia's messing around with Troy Barron, this is bigger than just cheating. That guy is her boss's boss." Pieces started sliding into place in my head. The late nights at the office. Her panicked reaction to the photo. The way she'd gone white when I mentioned the local news picking it up. This wasn't just a stupid drunk moment at her bachelorette party. It was something more. "I need to know for sure," I said. "What are you thinking?" Mike asked. "I'm thinking it's time to do some investigating," I said. Mike grinned. "Count me in. But you should know, your little social media bomb already cost Troy some serious face. Word is, Richard called him into the office first thing this morning. The whole company is buzzing." That afternoon, I drove to Lydia's office building and parked across the street, where I couldn't be easily seen. At 5:30 p.m., just like Mrs. Carlin said she usually left, Lydia walked out of the building and headed to her car. But instead of going home, she pulled out of the lot and drove toward downtown. I followed at a distance, heart pounding. She drove to the Riverside Apartments, an expensive complex by the waterfront, the kind of place I knew I couldn't afford on my handyman income. I watched from my truck as she parked and walked into building, see like she had done it 100 times before. No hesitation, no looking around. She knew exactly where she was going. 20 minutes later, she came out. She wasn't alone. A tall man in a sharp, expensive suit walked beside her. Even from across the parking lot, I recognized him. Troy Barron. They got into his BMW together and drove off. I sat in my truck for a long time after they left, staring at the empty parking spot. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a full-blown affair. When I got home, I called an old army buddy, Darius. He now ran a private security company out of Portland and was very good at the kind of work I needed. "I need help with something," I told him. "What kind of help?" he asked. "The kind you're good at," I said. "Research, surveillance, maybe some creative problem solving." Darius chuckled. "Sounds like someone's in trouble. What's going on?" I told him everything. The photo, the online chaos, my discovery about Troy, the apartment. "So you want to know how deep this goes?" he said. "I want to know everything," I said. "How long it's been going on. What they're planning. All of it. Give me 48 hours, he said. The next morning, I got another surprise. Sienna, Lydia's maid of honor, showed up at my front door. She looked nervous, like she wished she was anywhere else. "We need to talk," she said. I stepped aside and let her in, watching how she avoided looking directly at me. "Look," she started, twisting the strap of her purse. "I feel really bad about all this. The photo thing got way out of hand." "Did it?" I asked. "Or did it just reveal what was already happening?" "I don't know what you mean," she said softly. "I mean Troy Barron," I said. "How long has Lydia been seeing him?" Sienna's face crumpled. I can't," she whispered. "I promised I wouldn't say anything." "Sienna," I said, "I saw them together yesterday. I know about the apartment. The only question is whether you're going to help me understand what's going on, or whether you're going to keep lying for her." Tears spilled over. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. 6 months, she finally whispered. "It started 6 months ago at the company retreat." She took a shaky breath. "She said it was just physical," Sienna continued. "She said she loved you, but she needed something exciting. She made me promise not to tell anyone." "And you thought that was okay?" I asked. "I thought it would fade," Sienna said. "I thought she'd get bored, stop seeing him, and marry you anyway. But then she started talking about calling off the wedding and I panicked. I thought if she had one last wild night, she'd realize what she was throwing away. So the bachelorette party was what? I said. A test. She wanted to see if she could walk away from him, Sienna said. But when he showed up at the bar, she shook her head. She lit up like a Christmas tree. That's when I knew she was in love with him. The betrayal hit me like someone had punched me in the chest. Not just the cheating, but the planning. The months of pretending. The way she'd booked vendors and talked about wedding colors while secretly building an exit plan. There's more, Sienna said quietly. Of course there was. Troy's been promising to leave his wife, she said. He told Lydia that once he gets promoted to vice president, he'll have enough money to start over. Lydia thinks they're going to run away together. His wife, I repeated. Troy is married. Has been for 15 years, Sienna said. 2 kids in private school. And Lydia knows this? I asked. She thinks she's different, Sienna said. She thinks he really loves her. She thinks this time is different. After Sienna left, I sat in my garage workshop surrounded by my tools, the smell of wood and oil grounding me. For 8 years, I'd been the steady one. The reliable one. The man who fixed leaky sinks and broken fences. The man who showed up on time, paid his bills, and kept his head down. But Lydia and Troy had made a big mistake. They'd humiliated me publicly, thinking I'd just take it and quietly disappear. They were about to find out that the quiet ones are often the most dangerous when you push them too far. Darius called me early Friday morning at 6 a.m. Your girl's been busy, he said. I've got hotel receipts, credit card statements, and enough text messages to make a soap opera. You want the highlights? Give me everything, I said. They've been meeting twice a week for 6 months, he said. Same hotel every time, the Riverside Inn. Troy pays cash for his side of things. Lydia doesn't. She's been using her card for dinners, gifts, lingerie. She's not exactly hiding it. I closed my eyes for a moment. What about the texts? I asked. That's the good part, Darius said. He's been feeding her the usual line. I'm getting promoted soon. I'm leaving my wife. We'll have our own place together. Just wait. All that romantic nonsense. And is any of it true? I asked. Not likely, he said. I dug into his financials. The guy is up to his neck in debt. Huge mortgage. Kids' private school tuition. Country club membership. Multiple credit lines. He's barely keeping his head above water. He's not leaving his wife anytime soon. Does Lydia know that? From these messages? Darius said. No. She's planning to move in with him once your wedding is officially off. She's already started looking at apartments. Every detail was another knife twist. While I'd been imagining our future together, she'd been slowly stepping into someone else's life. There's one more thing, Darius said. Of course there is. Troy has a reputation at work, he said. This isn't his first affair with a coworker. Word is, he's done this several times. Same pattern every time. Promises to leave his wife, strings the woman along for months, then vanishes when things get messy. Send everything you've got to my email, I said. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That evening, headed to Ollie's to meet Mike. The bar was packed with the usual Friday night crowd. Laughter, music, the smell of fried food and beer. Mike had saved me a seat at the end of the bar, away from most of the noise. You look like hell, he said, sliding a beer toward me. I feel worse, I replied. But I've got a plan. I told him everything Darius had found. As I talked, Mike's expression grew darker and darker. So he said finally, what's the play? First, I said, I'm going to have a conversation with Troy. Man to man. You sure that's smart? Mike asked. A guy like that probably has lawyers on speed dial. I'm not going to threaten him, I said. Just going to make sure he understands the situation. At 9 p.m., I drove back to the Riverside apartments and waited in the dark lot. Eventually, Troy's BMW pulled in. I watched him park and start walking toward Building C. I stepped out of my truck. Troy. I called. Troy Barron. He turned, squinting in the dim light. Who's asking? Eli Griffin, I said. I think you know who I am. His face went pale, though he tried to keep his voice steady. Look, he said, if this is about that photo. It's about a lot more than a photo, I said. I walked closer. He instinctively took a step back toward his car. For all his expensive clothes and smooth talk, he was soft. I could see it in the way he carried himself. Probably hadn't thrown a real punch in years. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to end whatever this is with Lydia. Tonight. And you're going to stay away from her. You can't tell me what to do, he said. Actually, I said, I can. I looked him in the eye. I know about your wife, your kids, your debt, your other affairs. I know exactly what kind of man you are. And I know that Richard Hartwell cares about his company's reputation more than he cares about any single employee. Troy swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bopped. You're threatening me, he said. I'm informing you, I replied. There's a difference. Lydia is an adult, he said. She can make her own choices. You're right, I said. She can. And so can I. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was an email draft addressed to Richard Hartwell. Attached were photos, hotel receipts, and screenshots of text messages. One tap, I said. And this goes to your boss, your wife, and a nice long list of local gossip sites and blogs. Your choice. He stared at my phone, then at me. You're bluffing, he said. I shrugged and pressed send. Oops, I said. The blood seemed to drain from his face. You son of a... He lunged at me. but military training and years of physical work had kept me in good shape. His attack was slow and sloppy. I stepped aside easily, caught his wrist, and twisted his arm behind his back. He yelled in pain. "Here's some free advice," I said in a low voice near his ear. "Next time you decide to destroy someone's life, make sure they don't know how to hit back." I let him go and walked back to my truck. By the time I got home, my phone was already exploding. Lydia called. Richard called. Unknown numbers called. I let all of them go to voicemail. The next morning, I woke up and checked my phone again. The story had gone viral again. Someone had recorded my confrontation with Troy from their window above the parking lot and posted the video online. Comments poured in. Most of them were on my side. Local handyman school's cheating boss. This is how you handle homewreckers. Team Eli. At 10 a.m., Lydia showed up at my front door again. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Her hair was messy, her eyes red, her clothes wrinkled. She looked more desperate than angry this time. "You destroyed everything," she screamed as soon as I opened the door. "I destroyed everything?" I repeated. "That's Rich. Troy lost his job," she shouted. "Richard fired him this morning." "Good," I said. "How can you be so cruel?" she cried. "We love each other." I couldn't help it, I laughed. "Love," I said. "Lydia, you were game to him. Just like all the others." "That's not true," she insisted. "You're just trying to hurt me." "Ask him about Jennifer Morrison," I said. "Or Sarah Chin. Both ex-employees. Both thought they were special too." Her face crumpled. "You're lying," she said, but her voice shook. "Am I?" I asked. "When's the last time you heard from Troy?" She blinked. "Since yesterday." "I mean." She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her messages. I watched her expression shift, from confusion to frown to slow panic, as she saw what I already knew. Troy had stopped replying. "He's probably just trying to figure out what to do," she said weakly. "He's probably trying to figure out how to explain all this to his wife without losing everything in a divorce," I said. "You don't understand what we had," she whispered. "I understand perfectly," I said. 6 months of hotel rooms and lies. And now it's over. She looked at me silently, and in that silence, I saw the moment she realized I was right. Troy wasn't going to ride in and save her. He wasn't moving out of his house. He wasn't divorcing his wife. He wasn't even answering her calls. "I hate you," she whispered. "That's fine," I said. "You're going to hate yourself more when you understand what you threw away." After she left, I called Mike. "How's it feel to be the most famous man in Millbrook?" he asked. "Like I'm just getting started," I said. The next week was like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. Troy vanished from town. Rumor said his wife had kicked him out, and he was staying in some cheap motel while he looked for work in another state. Lydia moved back in with her father. Richard was so embarrassed by the scandal that he stopped going out. People said he'd started taking sick days for the first time in his career. But it was my friends who surprised me the most. It started with Dave and Jennifer Morrison. Yes, that Jennifer. The one Troy had apparently slept with 2 years earlier and then dumped. They'd been part of our close circle, barbecues, game nights, holidays. The kind of friends you expect to see grow old with you. Dave called me Thursday evening. "We need to talk," he said flatly. "About what?" I asked. "About what you did to Troy and Lydia." "What I did?" I said. "Don't play dumb, Eli," he snapped. "You destroyed 2 people's lives over a stupid photo." I was quiet for a moment, letting that sink in. "Dave," I said slowly, "you do realize that Troy was having an affair with my fiancé, right? And that he did the same thing to your wife 2 years ago." "That's different," Dave said quickly. "Jennifer and I worked through that. We're stronger now." "So what?" I asked. I should have just ignored it. Married Lydia anyway and pretended nothing was wrong. "You should have handled it privately," he said. "Like a grown-up. Instead, you made it a public circus." The longer we talked, the worse it got. He called me vindictive. I called him a hypocrite. He acted like I had ruined his life by exposing someone else's cheating. And he wasn't the only one. Tom and Susan Bradley called. Mark and Carol Chin. Other couples from our usual dinners and parties. The message was always the same. I'd gone too far. I'd overreacted. I was the villain of the story. They'd clearly been talking amongst themselves, rewriting the whole situation into a version where poor Lydia and poor Troy were victims, and I was some crazy, angry ex who couldn't let go. The breaking point came Saturday night at Ollie's. I was sitting at the bar with Mike, just trying to have a quiet drink, when Dave walked in with Tom Bradley and Mark Chen. They saw me right away and headed straight for my table. "Well, look who it is," Dave said loudly, making sure half the bar heard him. "The town's latest celebrity." "Dave," I said calmly, "don't do this here." "Why not?" he said. "You didn't mind making things public before." Tom stepped closer, his jaw tight. "You know what you are, Eli," he said. "You're a bitter small man who couldn't handle the fact that his woman found someone better." The bar went quiet. Conversations paused. Phones were already starting to point in our direction. "Someone better?" I repeated, standing up. "You mean a married man who used her for sex and lied about leaving his wife?" "At least Troy treated her like a queen," Mark said. "When's the last time you took Lydia anywhere special? Bought her flowers? Jewelry? Made her feel like she mattered?" "I was saving for our wedding," I said. "You know, the one she was planning to skip out on." "Because you're boring," Dave shouted. "You're a small-town handyman with no ambition, no class, no future. Lydia deserves better than a guy who's going to fix toilets his whole life. The words hit hard. These men had been in my home. I'd grilled steaks for them. We'd celebrated holidays together. I'd helped them fix their roofs and fences for free. Tom wasn't done. "You want to know what's really pathetic?" he said. "You're so insecure and jealous that you had to wreck everyone else's happiness because you couldn't keep your own woman satisfied." "That's enough," Mike said, stepping between us. "Stay out of this, Mike," Dave snapped. "This is between us and your loser friend." Something inside me snapped. The humiliation. The betrayal. The way they twisted everything so that the cheaters were victims and I was the problem. "You want to know what's pathetic?" I said, my voice suddenly very quiet. They leaned in. "What's pathetic," I continued, "is 3 grown men ganging up on someone just so they don't have to admit their own wives might have cheated too." Mark stepped forward. "What did you say?" "You heard me," I said. "Jennifer definitely slept with Troy. And if I started digging, I'd probably find out things about the rest of your marriages too." Dave swung at me, a big, clumsy punch I saw coming a mile away. I ducked and came up with an uppercut that caught him right in the solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Tom grabbed a beer bottle and rushed me, but before he could swing, Mike tackled him to the floor. Mark tried to circle around behind me. I pivoted and drove my elbow into his ribs. He stumbled backward into a table and crashed onto the floor. The whole fight lasted maybe 30 seconds. When it was over, they were on the ground groaning, and I was standing there breathing hard, aware that half the bar was filming. "Get out," Mike told them as they got up slowly. "All of you. And don't come back." As they limped toward the door, Dave turned around and pointed at me. "This isn't over, Eli," he spat. "We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "They already know," I said. "I'm the kind who fights back." After they left, the bar slowly returned to normal. But I could still feel eyes on me, some impressed, some frightened, some disapproving. "You okay?" Mike asked quietly. "Never better," I lied. The fight had felt good in the moment. But once the adrenaline faded, reality settled in. I'd lost my fiancé. My friends had turned against me. My name was wrapped up in every bit of gossip in this town. The smart move would have been to step back. Lay low. Let everyone get bored and find something else to talk about. Maybe even leave town. But I've never been known for always doing the smart thing. Monday morning, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Someone had recorded the bar fight and uploaded it online. The video was grainy, and the sound wasn't great, but you could clearly see me taking on 3 guys and winning. The comments were split down the middle. Half called me a legend. Half called me a violent psycho. Local Facebook groups started arguing about whether I was standing up for myself or just another toxic masculine jerk. In the middle of all this, Darius called. "You've been busy," he said dryly. "News travels," I muttered. "Faster than you think," he replied. "I've got something interesting about your former friends." "Go on," I said. "They've been planning this," he said. "Your little bar showdown? Your social exile? It's not an accident. They've been meeting at Dave's place for weeks, ever since the Troy situation blew up. Phone calls, group chats, a couple of emails. They've been working on a plan to turn everyone against you." "A plan?" I said. "Yep," Darius said. "They wanted to isolate you, make you look like the crazy angry ex. To the town, they'd be the reasonable ones trying to calm you down. You'd be the unstable one." A chill ran through me. "Why would they do that?" I asked. "Because you made them look bad," Darius said. "When you exposed Lydia and Troy, you also exposed the fact that all of them knew something, or at least suspected, especially after what happened with Jennifer and Troy. They're protecting themselves by turning you into the villain." "What else did you find?" I asked. "Dave's been in contact with Lydia," he said. "They're planning something this weekend. Some kind of public confrontation to make you lose your temper." "Where?" I asked. "At the fall festival downtown," Darius said. "Big crowd. Lots of cameras. Perfect place to push you until you snap, then film it and prove you're dangerous." The fall festival was Millbrook's biggest annual event. Food trucks, music, crafts. Everyone showed up, locals and people from nearby towns. If they planned to ambush me there, it would be in front of hundreds of witnesses and dozens of phone cameras. "There's more," Darius said. Of course there was. "I dug into their lives, like you asked," he continued. "Tom Bradley has been having an affair with his secretary for 8 months. Mark Chen's been taking money from his construction company to cover his gambling debts. And Dave Morrison? He's been buying drugs from a dealer in Portland. Not weed. The hard stuff. Pills and powder." I sat back stunned. "Not just hypocrites. Criminals. You can prove this?" I asked. "Photos. Financial records. Text messages," Darius said. "These guys are sloppy. I've sent everything to your email." "What are you going to do?" he asked. I looked at the wall for a long moment. "I'm going to give them exactly what they planned to give me," I said. "A public humiliation they'll never forget." Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, typical October weather in Maine. The fall festival filled the town square anyway. Food trucks lined the sidewalks. Booths selling crafts and homemade candles. A small stage set up for local bands. Families walking around with paper cups of hot cider. Kids running around with painted faces. I showed up around noon in jeans and a flannel shirt, blending in with everyone else. On the surface, I looked like I was just there to enjoy the event. But I wasn't there to enjoy anything. I was there to finish what had been started. I spotted Dave first. He was near the apple cider stand with Tom and Mark, all three of them scanning the crowd like they were hunting. I followed their gaze and saw Lydia nearby, talking with some coworkers. She kept glancing over at them. They were all here. Perfect. I walked toward the stage, where a local country band was playing their last song. Nearby stood Betty Walsh, the festival organizer, holding a clipboard and looking stressed and busy, as always. "Hey Betty," I said. "Can I borrow the microphone for a minute?" She looked up. "Sure, Eli. You want to make an announcement?" "Something like that," I said. As the band finished and started packing up, I stepped onto the stage. The microphone was already on. I tapped it once. The sound echoed through the square, turning heads. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" I said. People started to quiet down. Conversations faded. Faces turned toward the stage. In the crowd, I saw Dave, Tom, and Mark freeze. They started forcing their way forward, realizing something was about to happen and that they had no control over it. "For those who don't know me," I said, "my name is Eli Griffin. I've lived in Millbrook my whole life. I've always believed in treating people honestly and with respect." The only sound for a moment was the soft patter of rain on the tent roofs. "Recently," I continued, "some people have been saying things about me, calling me unstable, violent, a bad friend. So I thought I'd take a moment to clear a few things up." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "I'm going to play a few short recordings," I said. I connected my phone to the sound system. "This first one," I said, "is Dave Morrison arranging a drug deal in Portland last month." The audio came through loud and clear. You could hear Dave's voice, no question. He was discussing prices, quantities, and how often he wanted regular deliveries. People in the crowd shifted, murmuring. Heads turned toward Dave. His face went from red to chalk white. He tried to push through the crowd faster, but too many people were in the way. "This next one," I went on, "is Tom Bradley talking to his secretary about their affair. You'll hear him discussing hotels and how to hide it from his wife." Tom's voice filled the square, laughing and joking about how clueless his wife was, how easy it was to sneak around. I looked down and saw Susan Bradley standing stock-still in the crowd, her face pale with fury and shock. "And finally," I said, "this is Mark Chin talking about stealing money from his own company to pay off his gambling debts." Mark's voice came over the speakers, casual as anything, talking about adjusting numbers and moving funds around like it was nothing. The square erupted with whispers. People pulled out their phones and started recording. Some people stepped away from Dave, Tom, and Mark like they were contagious. "These," I said into the microphone, "are the same men who called me unstable, who said I went too far when I exposed my fiancé's affair. I'll let all of you decide who the real problem is here." I disconnected my phone and